Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councilman Ed Riesinger, Chairman of the Land Use Committee. Welcome to the land use hearing. We're here for City Council Bill 19-0427. It's the rezoning of 1020 West Pratt Street for the purpose of changing the zoning on the property known as 1020 West Pratt Street, Block 0251, Lot 032, as outlined in red on the accompanying plat. To the zoning from an R8 zoning district to the IMU1 zoning district. The public notice requirements have been met. And before I go to Councilman Bullock, Matt, my staff person, Matt, you want to go through the script on the roll call?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes. Just have a brief presentation on some of the controls for Webex. You can see here the controls that you should have in front of you at the center and bottom of your screen. On the left is control for your microphone. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking. Next to that is control for your video. We ask that if you are speaking, you turn on your video. Otherwise, it's fine to leave it off. The participants button can be used to see who is in the hearing. Chat function here. If you have an issue that you need to bring to the attention of the committee or the host, if you're having difficulties, you can use the chat function to do that. More options I'll talk about in a moment. And then on the far right, you have leave meeting when the meeting is over. Okay. Under more options, there's the control to use the raise hand function. Anyone who is attending by computer from the public will use that to let the committee know that you'd like to testify. And then at the top right-hand corner, you have controls for your view. You have the presenter screen and not showing participants, presenter screen and showing participants on the bottom, and then all participants organized in a grid. And just some best practices for WebEx hearings. Try to find a quiet space with good light and a strong internet connection so you can be seen and heard. Turn on video when you are speaking. Identify yourself before you speak. Mute yourself when you are not speaking. Speak slowly and clearly. Be present. Be patient. And wear headphones with a microphone to cut down on background noise if possible. For public testimony for computer users, the committee staff will be coordinating testimony. Again, please use the raise hand function to indicate that you wish to testify, and each speaker must state their name prior to testifying. For anybody who has called in using the phone number, we won't be able to identify you by name, and so we will unmute each caller one by one during the public testimony portion of the hearing. Attendees will hear 2 beeps when they're unmuted. And if you hear those 2 beeps, you do not wish to testify, please just say so. If you do wish to testify, please state your name and then begin your testimony. And if we're not able to understand what somebody is saying, we may ask you to call back in hopes of getting a better connection. And Mr. Chair, with your permission, I can do a roll call before we move on. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. And committee members, please, when I call your name, indicate you're here. Chairman Riesinger.
Here.
Vice Chair Sneed.
Here.
Thank you. Councilwoman Clark.
I'm here. When you're finished with roll, can I introduce my incoming wonderful new chief of staff?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. Councilman Costello?
Oh, I thought the raised hand worked, but I'm here.
Thank you. Councilman Dorsey?
I'm here.
Councilman Pinkett? Councilman Pinkett? Hey, I'm not seeing him. Councilman Middleton?
Present.
And Councilman Stokes?
I am here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Clark, do you want to introduce your chief of staff so we can move on? Go ahead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've asked Eric Brown, who is with us, to sit on as many hearings as possible. He is coming to join my staff on the 17th of August because Miller Roberts is going to leave me for a wonderful job. And so Eric is coming in and he's with us and he's been working with the council staff to get to know what's going on. And I thank you very much for letting him sit in. And thank you for being here, Eric. He's doing a lot of work and he hasn't even gone on the payroll yet.
Well, welcome aboard, Eric. Okay, thank you, Mayor Councilwoman Clark.
Yes.
At this time, we'll start with the sponsor of the bill, Councilman Bullock.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I know I come before you quite often these days, but I will say, you know, the piece that we're looking at today, 1020 West Pratt Street, there's been a long history regarding this property. It's one that's been vacant for a number of years, and it has a significant amount of space. Given that, there's a move to change it to industrial mixed use. So there could be office space as well as some potential residential. I will say this to the credit of the developers. There's been a number of community meetings, several for the last few months. They worked out a memorandum of understanding between the neighborhood and the developers. And fortunately, we also have a letter of support from the Hollands Roundhouse Neighborhood Association. So again, I put this in front of you, hoping for your favorable disposition, and it is something I do support. So thank you for the time today.
Thank you, Councilman. At this time, we're going to start with the agency reports. Planning Commission, who is it, Eric?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Eric Tiso. This bill was heard by the Planning Commission in their meeting of September 12th. And at the time, the Planning Commission disagreed with staff and recommended disapproval of the bill. As I recall, that was principally motivated by some concerns from some neighbors of the area, but it's my understanding that that may have been resolved. So I'll defer to the lead sponsor to address that.
Okay, thank you, Eric. So the staff did come out with a favorable report.
That's what we have, so that information may be useful to the committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for planning?
One thing I'll Mr. Chair, and so what Eric just mentioned is correct. So at the initial planning committee hearing or planning commission meeting, there was the favorable report from staff. However, members of the community felt that they didn't have their voice heard at the outset of the process, and so that's why I mentioned in the last several months there have been a number of community meetings which have resulted in an MOU as well as a letter of support from the neighborhood. So fortunately, those issues have been worked out. So we're very thankful about that. So thank you to planning as well.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions for planning? No? Okay, BMGA. Anyone from BMGA? They were unfavorable. Anybody from BMGA?
Hi, Leva Nadeau for the BMZA. We stand by our original report recommending disapproval.
Okay, thank you. DOT?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Liam Davis with Baltimore City DOT. Baltimore City DOT stands by its bill report, which is no objection. Thank you.
Thank you. Law Department.
Mr. Chair, this is Hillary Ruley from the Law Department. We stand by our report as long as the council finds facts to support the mistake and the rezoning. The Law Department would sign the bill for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you, Hillary. HCC.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Stephanie Murdoch, Legislative Liaison for the Department of Housing and Community Development. We stand by our report in which we defer to the Department of Planning.
Thank you. BDC.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Nikki Davis, BDC. We stand by our report in support of this bill.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will go to public testimony. Matt, you have Lisa, the developer's representative.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Lisa Domzel, I believe, represents the developers here, and I can unmute her now.
Okay. Go ahead, Lisa. You want to? Because you got.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Facts. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Alyssa Domzel with Ballard Spahr on behalf of Warhorse Cities, the applicant for this rezoning. With me, so to speak, is Todd James of Warhorse Cities, and I'm going to give him the opportunity to give some project background, if that's okay, and then we can dive into more on.
Good. You're good. Go ahead.
Give you a project background. The building itself is 50,000 square feet. It has 3 floors with a basement. Each floor is about 14,000 square feet with the basement approximately 10,000 square feet. We are planning for 10 parking spots in the basement and about 23 surface parking spots at the back of the property.
Yes.
Right now, we're looking to use this project as a commercial facility with all commercial use throughout the building. We're looking at 2 to 3 tenants on the first floor and perhaps 2 to 1 tenant on the second and third floor of the property. We're looking for low density commercial tenants. We would not have a lot of tenants in the building.
Okay. Are you done?
Yes. Do you need some more information?
No, unless any of my colleagues, the committee members, have a question.
I'm just curious.
Who is this?
Dorsey.
Okay, Councilman Dorsey, you got the floor. Go ahead.
The bill is to change this to industrial mixed-use zoning. If you're only doing commercial, what does IMU provide that IMU1 provide that, say, like a C2 doesn't? Or what's the distinction? Why one versus the other?
This is Alyssa. I'd be happy to address that, to address Councilman Dorsey's question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
If you look at the just a quick background on the building, just because it's relevant to the zoning district. The building was constructed in 1925, and it was originally a Montgomery Ward shirt factory, and then later it was an envelope factory, and is obviously currently vacant. So for basically all of time, it's been an industrial building. And if you look at the description for IMU, the zoning district is intended to encourage the reuse of older industrial buildings for light industrial use, as well as a variety of non-industrial uses. And then there's more about sort of the surrounding districts that section. So it really, IMU is really sort of the perfect building. It really is the perfect zoning for this type of building. And there's also some discussion, we don't know at this point what our tenant mix is going to be, but there is some discussion that there are that this building is in the proximity of the Biopark, and that there would be tenants of that type that would want to do sort of light manufacturing, but would not need the facilities that the biopark could provide, where this could be a smaller or lower cost option. So it really is intended to catch those lighter industrial uses.
That all certainly makes sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Go ahead, Alicia. You want to?
Sure. So I'd like to first address, as was discussed by Mr. Tiso and by the sponsor at the beginning, the Planning Commission recommendation and the Planning Department staff report. As the chair may recall, the Planning Commission recommended disapproval at the time because of concerns in the community about the project, not about the substance of the rezoning itself. Quite frankly, we had not done the work that we needed to do in the community at that point, but we have now done that work. There is a letter of support from the Hollands Roundhouse Association in the file that we received yesterday. This letter is the culmination of a community outreach effort beginning last November after the Planning Commission hearing. That was about 9 or 10 meetings. As is detailed in the letter, we were able to accommodate requested changes to the site plan, and we entered into an MOU with the community as well. So we really have addressed at this point the Planning Commission concerns about community outreach. And I would suggest that the committee, in looking at the findings of fact, use the Planning Department's findings of fact, because the commission really didn't recommend against, the committee really didn't take concern with the findings of fact in the Planning Department staff report. It really was community concerns which have been addressed. So with that, I'd like to turn to the mistake analysis, the law department's suggestion that there need to be more facts on the record. As I said, the building, which is almost 100 years old, has always had industrial uses prior to being vacant. It has never been used for residential use. And in fact, it's really not architecturally suited to residential use. It has big open floor plates, as you would expect in an industrial building. The zoning prior to the comprehensive rezoning in 2017 of this building was M12. So it had a light manufacturing zoning district prior to comprehensive rezoning. The area around it was R8 under the prior code and is R8 under the current code. They're roughly analogous districts. R8 is a row house residential district under the current zoning code that does not allow any commercial uses. And so essentially the property had always been an island of industrial zoning surrounded by R8, an R8 district. And then in the comprehensive rezoning, a mistake was made and it did not retain its original industrial designation. Mr. Tiso testified at the Planning Commission hearing that although many of these industrial buildings along the Pratt Street corridor were zoned IMU during comprehensive rezoning, this one was essentially missed. And so we would propose to essentially fix this mistake and restore industrial zoning for the building, light industrial, and the appropriate zoning district that we can see is IMU1 in this case. Thank you.
Any questions? Alicia? No? Okay, so at this time, we need a motion to move finding of facts. Do I have a motion?
I move the finding of facts.
Moved by Dorsey. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Oh, sorry.
Clark seconds?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of finding of facts say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Finding of facts passed. There's no amendments to this bill. So do I have a motion to move the bill favorable?
Move the bill favorable.
Moved
Second,
by Dorsey, second by Clark. Reisinger votes yes. Sneed?
Yes.
Sneed is yes. Clark?
yes.
Clark's yes. Costello?
Yes.
Costello is yes. Dorsey?
Yes.
Dorsey is yes. Middleton?
Yes.
Middleton is yes. Pinkett? Pinkett? Pinkett is absent. Councilman Stokes?
Yes.
Stokes is yes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 in the affirmative with 1 absent. The bill passed is favorable. I do have one question that concerns me is that if I state, this is to Hillary, as chair, if I state that the committee report the bill August the 17th, and if the president of the council has a emergency meeting this Monday coming up, do we still have to wait till the 17th?
Well,
Read it?
I'm assuming right now you would clarify, you just mean the next meeting,
I'll just say the next council meeting.
and then that should cover it.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure everything was clear. So to the committee members and my colleagues, the committee will report the bill to the full council in the next meeting. This concludes City Council Bill 19-0427. Thank you.